I'm going to be having a sewing workshop today in Kingston, and I'm going to show you guys my entire setup process, execution process, as well as what I teach the ladies. So let's go. We start by unpacking all the sewing machines and crates with the tools from the car. And I pack these into the car from the night before so that we don't have to do it in the morning. I also prepared the fabrics a few days earlier by washing them, ironing them if necessary, and cutting them to each person's size. This is to just make sure that we can stay within the time span of the workshop, which is usually 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I came up with this concept of a sewing club a couple of months before my daughter was born, with the intention to create a space where people in Jamaica could learn how to sew. I thought it would be a great opportunity for them to meet other people with the same interest and get to meet me and spend time with me. Teaching sewing in person felt like a natural transition to do because I already teach here on YouTube and people keep on asking about in-person sessions. I actually felt a bit crazy for making this workshop be about a gathered skirt because I could already feel how difficult that might be for a complete beginner, but I felt like I could make the process simple enough. Nice to meet you. I'm Gabby.
Gabby, okay, I was like, what am I calling besides so quaint?
On each table, I put 2 sewing machines. These are courtesy of Singer. Baskets with sewing tools, courtesy of Pink's Fabrics. And I gave each person a sewing machine guide. This is something that you can download as well, but I made them into pocket sizes so that they would be able to take them home and use them afterwards to flex their skills with their sewing machine. Really young ones with us here today, and actually you guys are my youngest students ever in sewing, and I'm really grateful that I get to facilitate your sewing journey, or at least be a part of it. At the beginning of every sewing workshop, I like to introduce myself to the students, despite the fact that most of them are already familiar with me through Instagram, and I let them talk about why they gravitated towards sewing and why they chose to be a part of this workshop. Some of the responses range from things like, I want to be able to alter my own clothes, to I want to stop relying on fast fashion, to I want to start wearing more natural fibers on my skin, all the way to I want to stay connected to my mom through sewing because I saw her sewing. And the responses always light me up because people are catching on. They're starting to realize the importance of having a skill, and not just any skill, but a skill that can benefit themselves and their family in a ton of ways. I showed the students how to thread their sewing machines and got them familiar with the mechanics of how a sewing machine works. One of the best parts of doing this entire thing for me is when things start to click for people and they make their first stitch and realize that sewing is actually not as hard as it seems. And it brings me back to the point that you made about the fact that you give up when something gets frustrating. And I feel like that's the struggle a lot of people have with sewing, because you think that just because it's hard, it's not for you. But maybe it's just that you don't know the sequences. Maybe you just need to know like a few things and then it will be easier for you. Maybe it's just, you just need to know how to thread your machine and how to cut fabric, what fabrics to use, how much fabric to use. And then once you have all of this information, you will feel a lot better about sewing itself. This will hold the thread in place so that it doesn't move, all right? So you're gonna take the thread and you're gonna put it behind this step. You notice what this diagram is saying? You would go around and then you go like that. In order to create a stitch, the top thread and the bottom thread have to come together. So the thread that's on the top of your fabric is from the needle, and then the thread that's on the back side of your fabric. The bottom of your fabric is basically from the bobbin. So you don't put the thread above the presser foot, you put it through the toes, right? So it goes through like that, and putting the thread through the toes,
Right.
you just bring the two of them to the back like that.
Okay.
So I know that the bottom one can feel like confusing. Like, how do you really bring it through the toes? Because maybe you're
Right.
thinking
To
you
go up,
you
yeah,
bring it up
and-
like this
yeah,
and
that's
go.
what I was
Yeah, but
thinking.
that's not what you do. You really just want to make sure that you bring the top thread
Okay,
between
okay.
the toes, and then they both come to the back of the sewing machine.
Okay, and I keep it there.
Right. I also love when they realize how much work actually goes into the creation of a garment. And then they realize that it's really shady for a garment to cost like $15, for example. Somebody must have had to get ripped off. And more than likely, it's the worker. I mean, we see that all the time with these fast fashion companies where they pay people like $3 an hour to make clothes that they're gonna sell for like $10 and be producing these things like crazy quantities per minute, per hour. That's one of my biggest reasons for doing this work, because I want to show people how to sew their own clothes. I want to show them that actually you don't have to wear fast fashion. You actually don't need new trending styles every single week. What you really need is intentional pieces that you can wear over and over again for years. What you're gonna do now is to just space them out so that they match the waistband. You want to make it the same width as your waistband piece. I then showed them how to create gathers in the waistline of their skirt, and this was the most challenging part for most of them, but I helped them to move forward with it. I like to be very hands-on with my sewing workshops, so if somebody doesn't understand something, I will go as far as stitching something for them or explaining the mechanics to them, and I make it my duty to walk around to each person to explain the things that they may not be understanding. Just imagine that there's a line right there, and you're going to stitch on that line until you come over to this part.
Okay.
Yeah, you have the right hand motion. Another way that you can put your hands on the fabric is to do something like this, kind of like a diamond in a way. Some people had their own sewing machines, so I actually replaced my sewing machines with theirs. And the reason why I made this an option is because some people really want to be able to get familiar with their own sewing machine so that when they go home, they can actually sew on their own instead of sewing on a completely different machine that they will never use in their life. And if you're thinking about getting a sewing machine soon, by the way, you can use my code SewQuaint10 on Singer.com, and that will give you 10% off your order at checkout. Next, I showed them how to sew the waistband using 2-inch elastic. I then showed them how to attach the waistband to the skirt, and this was another complicated part for some of them. Every workshop I do sheds light on what beginners struggle with the most and how I can help them to fix it. I learn new ways to teach in my content online, and I get feedback on how I can make each workshop even better. At this point, I have at least 7 sewing club workshops under my belt, and I look forward to hosting even more of them. And I want you to put a pin into that skin, like this. I want to be doing these for friend groups, work groups, retreats, bridal parties, parties overall. So if you're interested, send a request along with details of the event that you want to have this kind of thing at to hi@sewquaint.com. If you want to attend the next sewing workshop that I host, follow me on Instagram @sewquaint, because that's where I post about it first. So which part did you think was the hardest?
Gathering.
Gathering, okay.
Patience.
Yeah, you did pretty well,
Thanks,
especially for a beginner. Which part was the hardest for you?
Being gentle with the gathering.
Sunny, which part was hardest for you?
Doing
The gathering part?
Yes.
Okay, everybody found the gathering hardest. But what did you find the hardest, Lauren?
Just sewing the thing like at the end.
Oh, the waistband.
Sewing the waistband to the skirt.
Actually like your whole fit right now. It's giving high fashion. Which part was the hardest for you, Julian? Attaching the waistband.
Yeah.
Tell me what part was the hardest for you?
Gathering.
The gathering, okay. It seems that way for most people.